Okay, welcome to our review of the year translations for Greek lesson 11. And this is dealing with adjectives and pronouns, particularly the ones that deal with third declension. So we already learned last week the third declension nouns. Now we're going to look at the adjectives and pronouns that use the third declension endings, at least for the masculine. A lot of the feminine still uses the first declension that you're more familiar with. Okay, so here is our first passage, and it is. I'll change this to a high contrast color. John 8:53. You probably recognize that as we went through John 8:53, and in Greek it is me su meson e tu patras hemon Abraham hustis apethonen kai hoi prophetai apathonon tina se alton poiesis or poies. Okay, what does that say? And your translations are all here, so you can see what each other said. And the translation is something like, and there's a expected negative answer here. First notice here the question mark, so we know we're dealing with a question, which most of you, I think all of you got that. Well, most all of you got that. And so it's a question. And we have the main verb here is the verb of me, and this is third person singular. So we have, and for English, we're going to kind of bring that to the front. So something like, are you not, so that's, are you not greater than our father Abraham? Now we'll stop there for a second. This word meso we're going to save till later because you're going to get that in another chapter. I gave you what it's from here so you could look it up in the glossary. Please use your glossary. There's no way you can do these translations without it. And so we also have the second person pronoun here, su, which is not necessary given that it's contained in the verb, which means that this is emphatic. Are you not greater? So notice that helps us in our understanding here. Are you not greater? And the genitive can have the sense of a comparative. Then our father Abraham. And now we move into some of the vocabulary and grammatical structure that we've learned for this lesson. And this is who died. So what do we have here? We have an indefinite relative pronoun. I have the chart right here. This is the chart for the indefinite relative pronouns. And you remember from your reading, the indefinite relative pronouns is a combination of the relative pronoun, the us, us. So this would be just the relative pronouns here, combined with the indefinite pronoun, which I have. Here's the chart here. So see, this is the indefinite pronoun, and you have that plus the relative pronoun here, which you already learned. I think that was 2 lessons ago. So you put those together, and you have not just the relative pronoun, but the indefinite relative pronoun. Now, of course, you read in your lesson that many times, the vast majority of times actually, the indefinite relative pronoun is going to be translated just like the relative pronoun. But not always. Your book gave a very interesting explanation of how coitus is used in Romans 6:2. I think that's exactly right, and I think that's a great exegetical point for Romans 6:2. So it's not always the case that the indefinite relative pronoun is translated just like the relative pronoun. There's various times, as in Romans 6:2, when Paul says we who died, and he uses the indefinite relative pronoun to say we who died, it has a qualitative sense. And so it means we who are the kind of people who died. And I think that's a very important point that Paul makes in the flow of Romans. But in the vast majority of cases, the authors are not really making a point in terms of the qualitative nature of the thing that the pronoun refers to. It's just going to be translated the same as the relative pronoun. And that's what we have here. So are you not greater than our father Abraham, who died? And the prophets died. And then we have, notice there's this colon, and this requires a little bit of work to try to get the sense of what's going on here. We have the indefinite pronoun, which is going to be, we have the interrogative pronoun. See here, notice you have the indefinite pronoun list and the interrogative pronoun list here. So these are different. They have a different sense, and the way you tell the difference is by the accent. The accent is always going to fall in the beginning of the word if it's the interrogative. And I think that one easy way to remember that is, so often when you have interrogatives, this isn't always the case, but often you want to stress the question word. Maybe you come home and you can't find your book, and you go, "Who took my book?" Right? Where do you put the emphasis? Probably on who took my book, or maybe we can think of something more positive. You come home and somebody makes you dinner. Who made me dinner, right? Let's be more positive here. Again, the stress is going to be on that who, and if you notice, the accent falls at the beginning of the interrogative pronoun. And so one easy way to remember that might be that, well, that's because we want to emphasize that who or why or what. So often we want to do that when we're asking questions, as opposed to the indefinite pronoun that if it has an accent at all, it's going to fall on the end. And you can read in the book as to why the accent could change with the indefinite pronoun. But wherever the indefinite pronoun, whether or not the indefinite pronoun has an accent, it's never going to fall in the beginning of the word. That's always going to be with the interrogative pronoun. So what that means is that in this sentence here, we're dealing with an interrogative pronoun. And the best sense of this would be something like what, and that's what you guys have pretty much. And this is the word to do or to make. So something like this, or what, or actually who could work out as well. What do you make yourself to be, or who do you make yourself to be? Notice that this is the reflexive pronoun here. It's going to refer to yourself, and it's that second person one. So it's talking about yourself. You make yourself. What do you make yourself? Kind of is the idea there, and we can supply to be. Who do you make yourself? What do you make yourself? And obviously they're criticizing Jesus. Jesus is talking about the resurrection and life. He is life, and you believe in him, you won't die. I think something like that is the context. I don't remember it right off. But then they're saying, look, you got Abraham as your father. He died. The prophets, they died. Who do you make yourself out to be? And of course, Jesus isn't making himself out to be anything. He is, by nature, the one who possesses life in himself, and therefore he has come able to give life to others. Okay, so I hope most of you got something like that. If you didn't, and I don't know who each person is here, and you don't know that either, so I'm not really calling you out, but some of these translations didn't quite work themselves out. So you want to really wrestle with this. It's okay if you don't get it. because I'm going to help teach you the grammatical forms through the translations, but you really need to wrestle with this in your own study. Go back to that chapter and wrestle with the grammatical forms so that you can get them.